guys, we are going to be talking about my track New Look that I finally released after procrastinating for 6 years. It has been 6 years, because I have been releasing other sorts of music, which is deep house. Back to prog, because you cannot take the prog out of me. This track is basically an example of the simplicity that I have achieved over the past few years. So in my past albums, everything was pretty complicated. Everything was full of progressions and certain kind of transitions that used to take a song from point A to point B in a totally different dimension. Okay, simply jump into the track right here. You can see it's pretty simple, right? We have a multi-channel output drum track, the lead guitars, the rhythm guitars, left right band, of course, bass, and a few ambient tracks with a few FX tracks right here. That is, yeah, the entirety of the mix right here. To start with, I have been using Get Good Drums for the longest I can remember. I mean, essentially, ever since I started producing metal music or progressive music, I have been using Get Good Drums. It's the best because I can program it any way I want to. All the kicks, the sum, the subs, and the triggers, I can just kind of program them however I want to. Which is why, if we just isolate the drums right here, and if I take you to a section which is essentially right before the fill, this is how it sounds like. I make sure that I cover the entirety of the spectrum. I don't want my mixes to be sounding hollow in the end, and it's just a bit satisfying to cover the entire sound spectrum. That kind of makes your music sounds fuller and better overall, right? But let's start with a simple compressor right here, which is just used for ducking the sounds. So the initial signal that is coming out of the entire plugin, the Get Good Drums plugin, is getting ducked, and it's getting, well, I'm just trying to put a threshold into the sound that's coming out, right? So this is how I'm doing it. And after that, I'm simply heading into the limiter right here. Now for the limiter, I have played a bit with the frequencies right here between the hundreds and the 500 ranges. I've also cut down significantly on the subs, which is anything below 100, because, well, you want those subs to be a bit cleaner, and then you have to create room for the bass guitar as well. And when you're working around with some distortion guitars, you obviously have to make some space around the higher 400s, which is why I have created this little zone where I can kind of accommodate all the other sounds. Anyway, that is pretty much it about the drums. Now let's jump into the lead guitars right here, which sound like... Of course, the lead guitars, they sound massive. They sound huge. They sound big. And why? Why is it happening? Because we have this huge fucking chain of different plugins. And we also have BiasFX right here, the OG BiasFX. A lot of people use Archetype these days. I also use Archetype. I also have Archetype, Tim Henson, and I also have a couple of others. If I were to choose between BiasFX and Archetype, I would go with BiasFX. Okay, so essentially, as soon as the signal is getting into this plugin right here, you can see I have two gates, but I do not need these gates because while I was recording the guitars, the grounding was perfect, so I was not hearing any noise whatsoever. I'm sending the first initial signal to the drive, the drive component here. That is being pushed into boost, and then there is another drive right here. This is OD drive, and that is kind of distorting the sound right at the beginning of the signal, right? And then I'm compressing it all down a bit, sending it to an equalizer where I'm simply cutting off the 400s. Then it's getting split into two different amps. And yeah, essentially we have super reverb and we have PHDW, and then everything is getting split. Sorry, it's getting routed back again into the final chain right here, which is equalizer, mixer, Loomis EQ, which just has a character. I'm not okay. So there's like a lot of equalization happening here, but Loomis EQ is not really for cutting most of the frequencies. It just gives a character to the sound, which I really like, and which is why I just like put it right here. After that, it's going to a reverb. It's not much. It's just a bit of hall right here, and the output level is limited to somewhere around 50%. So I don't want the reverb to be all over the place when I'm talking about my lead guitars, right? Okay, now all of these sounds combined are running into another reverb plugin, which is like a standalone reverb plugin, and yeah, it's native to Logic Pro itself, and I've used this. Then that is being routed into delay. I don't have a lot of delay going on right here. You can see the output mix and everything else. The wetness and the feedbacks are not that much. They're capped at 30% when it comes to the feedback, so you don't hear a lot of cascading sounds in this lead guitar. But those sounds that do cascade are they're just gonna like hover around. They're not gonna be at your face. After that, everything is going into the equalizer, the dynamic equalizer, where I'm simply cutting off everything beyond 5K. Okay, it's not a 100% cut right here, but it's a massive cut in the frequencies. Anything above 5K doesn't make sense to me in this particular lead guitar. I'm not doing the same thing for the rhythms, but for the lead guitar, yes, I'm cutting a lot of things. I'm also kind of dynamically equalizing these ranges right here, somewhere around 750, 800s, because I don't like this character where you just have a lot of mids popping out in the lead guitars. Although I think this logic sits well with this mix. It doesn't work with every other mix, but it kind of works right here. Also ducking some 200s, and in the end I'm ducking 24 to 2500s as well for this lead guitar, and everything else is going into a compressor, which is putting a big threshold into the overall output of this lead guitar. Now that is the reason why these guitars are sounding really massive, right? Okay, now every little plugin that I showed you will start making sense, because there are essentially two things which are really important for your lead guitar to shine in the mix. The number one reason is the fact that you want your lead guitar to stand out. You got to make sure that the sound is cutting through, which is why you have to create this little bowl of frequency where the lead guitars can simply exist without much efforts. Okay, now quickly jumping into the rhythm guitars. They also sound pretty delicious. Check it out. I'm not using the entire chain that I used for the lead guitars for both of the rhythm guitars here, right? Now everybody knows the logic. You have to record the rhythm guitars twice or maybe 4 times just to make them sound massive, and you want to make sure that you want to cover the entire spectrum of the sound. So you have to hard pan one to the left and one to the right side completely, and in the middle sits the lead guitars and the bass guitars and all the other frequencies. So the rhythm guitars, if you listen to this, they are like simply covering the left and the right end of the spectrum completely. Again, I'm using BiasFX. Okay, now quickly jumping into the bass guitar, which is kind of pulling the heaviness in the track. So without the bass guitar, this track is just not gonna sound good. This is my favorite bass guitar plugin. It's Darkglass Ultra. I've used the hardware version of it as well, but yeah, since you have the plugins, why to bother yourself with a lot of hardware in the end, right? It doesn't make sense anymore in 2026. Even in my previous albums and my EPs, I extensively used Darkglass, right? I've been cutting mids like anything, man. Even the bloody bass guitars, the mids are gone. Not that much, but yeah, you can see. Okay, Now coming to the last part, probably one of my favorite parts. Okay, this is not the last part, but essentially this is a sample that I downloaded from Splice, and then I added a few sprinkles of electric guitar with a patch that had 100% reverb, and then I blend them together, and this is how it sounds like. Almost has a relief kind of vibe to it, right? So this track is certainly full of a lot of emotions flowing here and there. If you listen to it clearly, you will definitely go through a lot of energy bursts, and then there are some moments of calm, like right here. So I did render the track, and I chopped out one part, and I just like placed it on different parts of the track, just to give it a little, volatility, I guess, right? So check this out. This was it. This was pretty much it. This was the entirety of the mix for New Look. And now we can simply jump into the master. Now, all these tracks, of course, laid on top of each other. Let's just like take this loop right here for reference, is going into the Logic Pro native mastering plugin. I'm just going to be very, very honest. This is a great shortcut for a for a lot of people who are trying to master and can never get to that point where their tracks are loud enough and punchy enough in just one single click, right? So this is what I did. If I turn off everything and I just literally make you guys listen to the mix, it's just going to be sounding very plain and simple. Now let me play this while I turn on the mastering plugin, the native mastering plugin. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, the difference is just significant right here. It just like creates the punch in your tracks. It auto analyzes. It just knows. Okay, I think Logic Pro's mastering plugin is way better at production than you are. Uh, or maybe I am, right? For that matter, like fuck it. So, but it kind of works like a charm, to be honest. So this is one of the key elements before the entire mastering is happening. The number one priority that I have in my mixes when I'm mastering them is the limiter, the Melda production limiter, MLimiter MB. Because again, once again, I mean, this can help you identify certain subtleties across different frequency ranges, which is quite important. If you really want a mix that truly stands out, you have to know which frequency you have to tackle and which frequency you have to identify, right? So you can check it out right here. Now, on top of this limiter, I am putting another layer of dynamic equalizer, and I'm cutting some mids at 645, boosting a bit at 2000, and then I'm also ducking the 200s, right? So, turning both of them on. It's more defined, right? After that, I am using Ultra maximizer. Now for every mix, you have to have a ceiling, otherwise it's just going to start cracking. After that, I am running everything into the loudness meter and the multimeter that is native to Logic. The LUFS levels are going to be defining the loudness levels of your tracks, and once you master this, your tracks will finally start sounding massive. They will start sounding big, and well, this is the only missing part of the entire puzzle, where most of the people are not able to make their tracks sound loud. If you understand metering, you can make your tracks sound loud. This was the full spectrum of the entire mix. Okay, so this was pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you like this kind of content, let me know in the comments. I will start posting a lot of mix dissections. Anyway, I will catch up with all of you guys in the next coming videos pretty soon. Bye for now.